All right, very good afternoon, everyone. Now, class 12. In the last video I had uploaded, that is the third installment, a total of seven, the third installment of the chapter, Evans tries an O level. We were talking about how somehow, even though the governor was listening through the microphone placed in Evans's cell, even though two guards, Stephen and Jackson, were standing right outside the jail cell. And even though they had checked Evans's cell and McCleary's possession for anything that could have been used as a weapon, after taking all the necessary precautions, till then, Evans was able to attack McCleary, take his place, and then he was escorted out of the prison gates by Stephens. So now, uh, McCleary has told the governor that he knows where Evans is, and Detective Superintendent Carter has taken McCleary with him inside his car, and they are going where McCleary says Evans is at the present moment. And so we continue from there. That is your page 83, the para that starts with Elsfield Way. I hope you have gone through the previous video so that you can catch up to what has been going on in the chapter so far. Elsfield Way, McCleary had said, and there it was, staring up at the governor from the last few lines of the German text. From Elsfield Way, drive to the Headington roundabout. Where? Yes, of course. The examination board was in Elsfield Way, and someone from the board must have been involved in the escape plan from the very beginning. The question paper itself, the correction slip. The governor turned to Jackson and Stephens. I don't need to tell you what happened, do I? His voice sounded almost calm in its scathing contempt. And which one of you two morons was it who took Evans for a nice little walk to the main gates and waved him goodbye? It was me, sir, stammered Stephens. Just like you told me, sir. I could have sworn. What? Just like I told you. You say. What the hell? When you rang, sir, and told me to. When was that? The governor's voice was a whiplash now. You know, sir, about 20 past 11 just before. You blithering idiot. Man, it wasn't me who rang you. Don't you realize? But what was the use? He had used the telephone at that time, but only to try unsuccessfully once more to get to the examinations board. He shook his head in growing despair and turned to the senior prison officer. As for you, Jackson, how long have you been pretending you have got a brain? Eh? Well, I'll tell you something, Jackson. Your skull's empty. Absolutely empty. It was Jackson who had spent 2 hours in Evans's cell the previous evening, and it was Jackson who had confidently reported that there was nothing hidden away there, nothing at all. And yet Evans had somehow managed to conceal not only a false beard, a pair of spectacles, a dog collar, and all the rest of the clerical paraphernalia, but also some sort of weapon with which he had given McCleary such a terrible blow across the head. Ah! A prison van backed alongside, but the governor made no immediate move. He looked down again at the last line of the German. To the Headington roundabout, where you go straight over and make your way to Neugraben. Newgrave. Neugraben. Where on earth? Never heard of it. But there was a war grave somewhere near Reading, but no, it was probably a code word. But then it hit him. Newbury. Good God, Newbury was a pretty good sort place. But he rapped out of he rapped out his orders to the driver, St. Eldate's police station, and step on it. Take Jackson and Stephens here, and when you get there, ask for Bell, Chief Inspector Bell. Got that? He leaped to the stairs to his office three at a what time, got Bell on the phone immediately, and put the facts before him. "We'll get him, sir," said Bell. "We'll get him. With a bit of luck." The governor sat back and lit a cigarette. Ye gods, what a beautifully laid plan it had all been. What a clever fellow Evans was. Careless, leaving that question paper behind. But then, they all made their mistakes somewhere along the line. Well, almost all of them. And that's why, very, very shortly, Mr. Clever Evans would be back inside doing his once more. And so, McCleary leaves with Chief Inspector Carter, no, McCleary leaves with Detective Superintendent Carter towards Elsfield Way because McCleary says that that is where Evans is headed. Now, the governor is looking at the question paper on which the superimposed plan was there, and he starts talking to the guards. "Which one of you two idiots took Evans for a nice walk and waved him goodbye at the gates?" And Stephen said, "Well, sir, it was me." "But then it was your orders." And the governor was surprised. "When did I give you an order?" And Stephen says, "Well, sir, around 11 something, you gave me a call and you asked me specifically to walk McCleary to the gates." So the time when the governor received the call, the guard received the call from the governor, it wasn't the governor. Somebody else who was impersonating as the governor had given a call to the guard and asked him to walk McCleary to the gates of the prison. And then he turned his anger to Jackson. "So, Jackson, you are the senior guard here. So tell me one thing. How long have you been pretending that you have a brain? Because it seems your head is absolutely empty." And why he was saying this to Jackson is because Jackson was the one who on the previous night had checked Evans's cell for around 2 hours and confidently declared that there was nothing inside it which could be used as a weapon. And yet, Evans had somehow not only managed a weapon, but a clerical clothes of McCleary as well. He had a false beard, all right. He had spectacles. He had the clerical collar, the dog collar. He had all the clothes that the minister was wearing so as to enable him to change places with him. Then he called up senior prison inspector and he said, "You go to Newbury police station." All right. Because as he was reading the clues, where the superimposed part of the question paper was, he broke the code into where the plan was that from Elswick Way he would head towards Headington and then to Newbury. And so he said, "Go to that police station and talk to Chief Inspector Bell and take Jackson and Stephens with you." And then he ran to his office and called the inspector there as well, the police inspector, Chief Inspector Bell. And Chief Inspector Bell said, "Don't worry, sir, we'll catch him. It might take a little bit of luck, but then we'll get him." And then our governor was a bit relaxed now. So he lit a cigarette. And then he thought, this guy is very clever. I wonder how he managed to do it. He was such a clever guy, and yet he did a mistake of leaving that plan behind. But then he thought, they all make mistakes. Even the most cunning of criminals at one point of time make a mistake. And Evans's time has come. He has made a mistake and he'll be back in the prison very soon. And so we continue. The phone on his desk erupted in a strident burst, and Superintendent Carter informed him that McCleary had spotted Evans driving off along Elsfield Way. They had got the number of the car all right and had given chase immediately, but had lost him at the Headington roundabout. He must have doubled back into the city. "No," the governor said quietly. "No. He's on his way to Newbury. He explained his reasons for believing so and left it at that. It was a police job now, not his. His was just another good for a giggle, gullible governor, that was all. By the way, Carter, I hope you have managed to get McCleary to the hospital all right. Yeah, he's in the Ratcliffe now. Really groggy he was when we got to the examination offices, and they rang for the ambulance from there. The governor rang for Ratcliffe a few minutes later and asked for the accident department. McCleary, you say? Yes, a parson. I don't think there's anyone. Yes, there is. They'll find one in the ambulance, picked him up from Elsfield way about. Oh, that. Yes, we sent an ambulance all right, but when we got there, the fellow had gone. No one seemed to know where he was, just vanished, not a sign. But the governor was no longer listening, and the truth seemed to hit him with an almost physical impact somewhere in the back of his neck. A quarter of an hour later, they found the Reverend S. McLeary securely bound and gagged in his study in Broad Street. He had been there, he said, since 8:15 when two men had called, and inquiries in Newbury throughout the afternoon produced nothing, nothing at all. And by tea time, everyone in the prison knew what had happened. It had not been Evans impersonating McLeary who had walked out, but it had been Evans impersonating McLeary who had stayed in. The fish and the chips were delicious, and after a gentle stroll round the center of Chipping Norton, Evans decided to return to the hotel and have an early night. A smart new hat concealed the wreckage of his closely cropped hair, and he had kept it on as he walked to the reception desk of the Golden Lion. It would take a good while for his hair to regain its former glories. But what the hell did that matter? He was out again, wasn't he? A bit of bad luck that when Jackson had pinched his scissors, for it had meant a long and tricky operation with his only razor blade the previous night. Ah, but he had his good luck too. Just think if Jackson had made him take off his bobble hat. Phew, that really had been a close call. But still, old Jackson wasn't such a bad fellow. One of the worst things, funny, really, had been the beard. He had always been allergic to sticking plaster, and even now his chin was irritatingly sore and red. So now we come to the part wherein the plan is being revealed slowly to us. So now, after talking to Chief Inspector Bell,